Okay, welcome to session 26, part A. Let me apologize. I'm afraid 26 of the session is going to go long. But on the other hand, 25 was short, so in a sense, I feel like you owe me. So, anyway, it's going to be a little bit longer than usual. Let me start off. In this part A, I forgot in session 25, I had kind of a list of questions that I want you to get from those Hayek versus Keynes videos. Here are some things that could show up on a test. First, when did Hayek and Keynes write? The answer is 1920s or 1930s. Hayek wrote later, but the key is when they had their big debate. This is from their writings that they did during the 1920s, 1930s. I don't need you to get it that specific, but I want you to know it's not the 1980s. It's not the 2000s. It's not the 1700s, not the mid 1800s. Okay. Which one do most George Mason economists agree with, Hayek or Keynes? The answer is Hayek. Remember this. Which one is it more correct to call as part of the Austrian school of economics? The answer is Hayek. Okay. Where's the best place in the world right now to study Austrian economics? George Mason. I mentioned. I want you to know this. In those videos, one of my friends had a bit part. His name is Mike Munger. Munger. That could show up on the exam. He was the limo driver, and he was the guy, the security guard. He kind of overacted. You could probably kind of tell he was not a real actor, but he did pretty good. I think for a professor, he did really well at being an actor. He is a professor at Duke. Okay, once you know that, that's something you can remember. And he ran for governor of North Carolina on the Libertarian Party ticket. He lost. I want you to know that. Know the name of John Maynard Keynes's great book, and I don't even know the full title, but we all call it The General Theory. Okay, and remember that's what Hayek saw when he opened the drawer. That could show up on the exam. What did Hayek see when he opened the drawer? And the answer was a copy of General Theory. Your professor had a research assistant job when I was in college, and I worked for a guy named William Warren Bartley. By the way, well, I'll discuss it in a later video. It's the answer of a question. But for the moment, William Warren Bartley was the editor of the collected works of Friedrich Hayek. I was the research assistant. So know that. I had a part in Friedrich Hayek's work. In fact, the one video talked about the fatal conceit. Now, it turns out for the fatal conceit, I was a research assistant when that book was edited by William Warren Bartley. I did the name index, and so you'll see I'm even thanked in the acknowledgments. So that title, Fatal Conceit, was mentioned in that video. I want you to know your professor had a small, very, very small part in that book. Who does your professor think is the smarter of the two, Hayek or Keynes? The answer is Keynes. Even though I think Hayek was right, I think that Keynes, he is in the superstars of economics. You know, if you had to name the half dozen great economists, Keynes would be in there. Hayek, maybe in the second half dozen, maybe even below that. He's up there, but not quite the same as Keynes. Who's the better writer? The answer is Keynes. Keynes is a beautiful writer. Hayek is not a very good writer, but he's very smart. Hayek is very smart. Did some great work, and like I say, I think his theory is a more accurate description of the real economy than what Keynes is. Even though Keynes might have been smarter, Keynes might have been a better writer. Know a little bit about what Austrian economics means. Means there's an emphasis on the free market. There's a de-emphasis. The Austrian economists don't put a lot of mathematical equations in their work. In a second, there we're going to talk more about this, probably in part B, that a key part of Austrian economics, at least when they look at macroeconomics, they say there's no substitute for savings. If you want to get if you want your society to become more prosperous, you got to have people save. You got to put off consumption for the future. And things like monetary policy, although it can act like an artificial stimulant or artificial substitute for savings, it's not the real thing. That's part of Austrian economics. Um, who Hayek versus Keynes? Who accuses the other one of having policies that are like alcohol? They feel good for the moment, but the long-term bad effects, like a hangover, the answer is Hayek accuses Keynes's policies of being like alcohol. And you saw from the video, Keynes wakes up with a hangover. Are those videos, do they discuss mainly microeconomics or macroeconomics? The answer is macroeconomics. Remember, micro just has to do with one particular industry. It looks at small problems, very particular problems. Macro looks at the big problems like unemployment, GDP, inflation, things like that. Okay, so that is this will be short. That was part A. Okay, see you in part B.